All right, and we are live behind the scenes, and hopefully, if you happen to come across this, you can actually see something. We're not quite sure if you will or not at this point in time, so hopefully you can.
Major changes at YouTube this week.
Major changes at YouTube. In fact, maybe we'll start the show talking about that before we get into our content, too.
Phasing out Hangouts. So, okay, well, I'll give you 3, 2, 1 here. 3, 2, 1.
On this episode of Video Marketing Madness, we're going to talk about 5 steps to creating amazing thumbnails for your videos. And the episode, of course, is brought to you by freevideoeditor.co, the place where you can get a free video editing program that allows you to do all the great high-end video editing that you've always wanted to do without the high-end cost. In fact, it's free, as the name implies. Head on over to freevideoeditor.co for more details and to download the program today. And now is when the jingle plays.
That's right. 3, 2, 1. It's the radio show about video marketing madness with Ray the Video Guy, and I'm Steve Sleeper on the Earn.Show podcast network. Facebook page, Video Marketing Madness. Twitter, Video MKT Madness. At Facebook, we got a free report, YouTube embed codes. Yeah, changes going on with Google Hangouts. I know we're going to get around to thumbnails, but...
changes galore. So it appears, now I don't want to jump the gun here, and I don't want to say anything that may end up not being quite accurate, but it sounds as if Hangouts have reached their last days. And because of that, they're making some changes. Obviously, live video is becoming a bigger and better thing. Hangouts were always great, but are a little dated as far as the look and feel. And so things are moving into live events and the old YouTube live video, which they're trying to make much easier to use. And it looks like that's the direction that things are going to be going in. And because of that, they've made a lot of changes to the back end of your YouTube account. So not only does it look different now, but they've actually made it so that when we go live like this, and the reason I said at the top of the show, hopefully we're live here, is because they've made changes where in order to do a live event now, you have to have monetization turned on, you have to have live events enabled, and you have to have an AdSense account attached to your YouTube account. And of course, on this particular one, we didn't have AdSense attached to it. We had no reason for that up until now. So I've connected it, and hopefully things are working, but we will find out afterwards if everybody were able to see us live. So hopefully that is the case. But if not, then you'll have to just watch the replay.
Or listen to the podcast audio.
Exactly. Yes. Listen to the podcast itself. And so that's where it is. And I know they're making other changes too. They're making the app much easier to use for going live. They're trying to go after that Facebook Live and Periscope audience, and hopefully they do. I think they can put some pretty good stuff together. And once the dust is settled on all this, I'm sure it will be nice and easy once again for all of us in YouTube land to exploit their free platform for our own personal gain again. So there you go.
I've been doing a live event daily for a nonprofit. It's Radio Talking Book, and they simulcast their live reading on YouTube. And I've been going into YouTube and going into live events and starting it for quite a while. I got away from Hangouts, so good for me.
Yes, good for you. Oh, it is. It actually is a good thing, and that's it's exciting to see that they're making these changes. And it's only going to be for the better. It just might be a little bit of growing pains for a little while.
That's right. Like today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Today's been a rough day all around, I guess. So
yeah, nothing's worked for you today. It's just been tough. You're kind of in a bad mood.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to I'm trying to be much more organized with everything that I do. So I've got Evernote to kind of keep all of my stuff together, and then I've got task software that kind of keeps me on task all day long. And I got this new program that connects the two together. And I spent all this time going through all the trainings and trying to figure it out and setting it up and double checking and triple checking, and nothing was working. And I finally wrote to support, and they wrote back to me, "Oh yeah, the system's been down for the last few hours." So literally the one day that I sign up for all this is the day the system is down. So I've been pulling my hair out for nothing because it's actually not the setup that was wrong, but apparently it's the system itself is down today. So.
Well, let's get into, first of all, I feel your pain because that's happened to me before. But why don't we get into 5 steps for effective thumbnail design?
Yes, we've got 5 steps for effective thumbnail design. Now, back a while ago, we did an episode on thumbnail tools to be able to create your thumbnails. But today I wanted to go over some of the ways that you can make your thumbnails really stand out and make them an effective marketing tool for you, because it's quite honestly one of the most overlooked tools inside of YouTube. Essentially, that thumbnail is like having a billboard in front of millions of people. And if we don't use it effectively, well, then, you're not going to get the most out of it. And there is a lot you can get out of having a nice thumbnail. One, it draws attention. It gets people to pay attention to what you've got there. Draws people's eye towards it. But 2, it also brands all of your content and materials together. So for instance, if every single one of your videos uses the same thumbnail design with just a different title or a different picture, people are going to get used to seeing that thumbnail. And not only will it draw their eyes, but they'll say, oh, that's so-and-so's video. So it's a very effective way of making sure that you can get attention. And for places like local businesses, I mean, it's essential. If you can turn that thumbnail into a billboard and get that thumbnail onto page 1 of Google, you're going to get a lot more traffic because it's going to draw the eye. It's going to provide information right there, and they're going to be able to take action and hire your business instead of the other person's business. So thumbnails can be a very, very important part of a marketing campaign. So how do we make effective thumbnails? Well, in a past episode, we did talk about some of the softwares like Instant Video Presence and a few others, but you can make these in Photoshop. You can make them in PowerPoint. I know a lot of people that build them in PowerPoint or Keynote, and they actually just create a slide and build it in there, and that's actually quite effective. There's also tools like the Logo Creator, which has a YouTube module that will make thumbnails for you. So there's a lot of different options. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that what we create is effective and gets the most attention for us. So the first thing we want to talk about is the effective use of colors. Basically, the brighter the colors, the more it's going to stand out. Now, you don't want to make it as garish as possible and have hot pink and flaming orange on everything that you do, but you do want to make effective use of colors. So maybe if you've got an image in there, maybe you always put a slight blue hue to the image. If you're going to put a little maybe a box at the bottom that has your name on it, you want to make that box in a color that stands out. And you want to make sure that those colors match your other branding. So for instance, if you were the Home Depot and you were creating thumbnails for the Home Depot videos, you probably wouldn't want to use blue and white, which is the Lowe's colors, and vice versa. Lowe's would probably not want to use orange for their thumbnails. So you want to make sure it's consistent with your branding. If you're Home Depot, you want to have maybe the Home Depot logo on the thumbnail, maybe a box or a slash that's orange, and then the title of the video. And that's going to help to brand that to the Home Depot, because when we see any sort of store, big box store that's orange, we probably think of the Home Depot. Because I can't think of any other stores that use that orange color for their logos. Now, if you're Lowe's, you're probably going to want to make that logo even bigger, because we all know one other big box store that uses a lot of blues. And quite frankly, Walmart is a much, much bigger presence than Lowe's in our world. So you want to make sure that not only are you using your colors, but that you've got your branding on there. So that Lowe's logo is going to make a big difference so that people don't think it's a Walmart video or something else. So just make sure that you use an effective amount of colors. Make sure that the colors match your branding and even the typeface. So if you're putting a title of what the video is in text, you want to make sure that it matches the type of type that you would use in your logo or on your website, things like that. So just make sure that you use color, but use it effectively so that it creates a nice little effect, brands you so that people can recognize you instantly. Now, you may also want to use certain shapes. So for instance, I know of one particular YouTube channel where every one of their thumbnails uses a blue. I'm not sure how to explain it. A blue bar, but it's a sideways bar. So in the top left-hand corner is blue, and the bottom right-hand corner is blue, and they kind of go at a diagonal and kind of cut off the corners of the particular video. And so every one of their videos has that, and it allows the videos to stand up and work together. So it's a very cool, effective way of doing that. Okay, so number 2, you always want to try and use an image of a face. Now, whether it's your own face or the face of a person in the video or whatever it happens to be, using a face can be an effective way to get attention. People by nature, by birth, want to see faces. Even if it's my ugly mug on the thumbnail, it's going to get attention. It's going to get people to feel more comfortable, and it's going to get them to click. Now, that doesn't mean to just use the built-in, YouTube chooses the thumbnail and you happen to be in the picture. You still want to plan this out. You want to make sure that your image is in there and it's a nice image. It's an image that represents what's in the video. So perhaps, if you're doing a video on, what's wrong with X, well, maybe the image on there is you looking puzzled with your hands up. Or if it's, something that's supposed to be funny, maybe it's a picture of you laughing. So you want to make sure that the image matches what's going on in the videos. Now, for the majority of people, it's probably just going to be a face. There's not much that's funny about a plumbing video per se. So it might just be the person who's presenting. But you want to make sure that it's a nice image of the person, that they're smiling, that it's cut out. You want to cut it out of the background, so you don't want to have a distraction there. You want to make sure that it's a nice image of them. Paste that into your thumbnail that you're creating and move it to the side. So maybe you put it on the far right side or the far left side, and that leaves you room for your branding and other messaging. But the big thing here is, like I said, people, and you want an example of this, people like to see faces. They're drawn to them. This is why, if you ever notice, you see people who say, oh, that rock looks like a man, or, it looks like a man's face, or that potato chip looks like Nixon, or whatever it happens to be. It's actually a hardwired thing in us to look for faces. And it comes from being a baby, because when you're a baby, your entire life depends on somebody making sure that you're fed, making sure that you've got water and milk and all that. And so they're always looking for that pattern of 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. And that's the way that we are as humans as well. Faces attack our reticular activators in our brains and make us draw towards them. So make sure you try to put a face in the video or in the thumbnail whenever you can.
What do faces do?
The reticular activator.
Oh.
Steve, do you know what the reticular activator is?
No.
This is something that anybody doing marketing needs to understand. Have you ever bought or have you ever had a friend buy a car that was unusual? And you look at it and go, wow, that's an unusual car. Sure. Or an unusual color. And what happens over the next month?
It's not so unusual.
Yeah, you start to see that car everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the reticular activator. It looks for things that make sense, things that you're used to, things that you can relate to. So now your friend has that car, and now you see that car everywhere, whereas before you just didn't notice. Well, it's the same thing with faces. We look for faces. We like to see faces.
So reticular activator, that's different from an electrodefragmentizer.
It is.
Okay.
And it's an actual real thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, that's the part of your brain that searches for patterns and searches for things that are familiar to it. And faces are the most familiar. And if we want to get into psychology, what we look for is matrixing. And matrixing is seeing faces. So in other words, or seeing something familiar, not necessarily faces, but that's why people see dragons in the clouds. That's why people see faces in rocks. It's because we look for patterns and our brain puts them together. It's called matrixing, and it's a very effective part of marketing. So there you go. Big lesson there. All right, the next one is try to use action. Now, the crazy thing about this is we just told you to try to always use faces, right? Well, sometimes we can't use faces, or it doesn't make sense to use faces, or we want to put something in there besides faces. So we want to try and use something that has action, something that makes people look at it and go, what is that? You know, things like explosions, things like, you know, a big truck racing towards something, you know, anything that has an action in it that people can say, oh, that looks exciting, and they want to look more. It just gets attention, and it gets people to want to see the video. Now, you can, of course, incorporate that with faces. You could have a face on one side and, you know, something else going on in the background behind the person, or you can just use the thumbnail that's fully got some sort of action in it. It's going to help get people's attention and make them question, whoa, what is this video about? And that's what's going to get them to jump in there and check out what's going on. So tip number 2 is try to get action into your thumbnails whenever possible. Okay, the next tip that we want to talk about is, and actually I think I said that was 2, that's number 3. Number 4 is we want to add text. Okay, now this may not be 100%. Not every single thumbnail is going to need to have text. Like we talked about the action shots, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes just a face and a logo is enough. But in most cases, we want to add text. And what I typically do with my thumbnails is if it's me explaining something, I might put the picture of me, push it off to the side of the thumbnail, then on the other side of the thumbnail, put in big, bold text, you know, what that video is about. In the case of a local business, maybe it's a phone number. Maybe it's their logo. Maybe it's text about what they're doing. You know, if it's a plumber, maybe it says how to unstop a drain. So something that tells people exactly what's in the video is going to get them to click on that, especially if it's something that they're looking for. If they're searching for how to unclog a drain, they see a thumbnail that says how to unclog a drain, they're more likely to click on that video, especially if it's still got the face or maybe some action in there as well. So you want to use text. Now, you don't want to go too crazy. You want to make sure that it's readable. So it does have to be big because, let's face it, on Google, those thumbnails are pretty small. So you want to use a nice, heavy font. Perhaps, you know, the one that I like to use a lot of times is a Condensed Helvetic Bold. And what that does is it makes it a nice, bold text, but it condenses it down so it's not the word isn't long. So it's kind of a skinny letter, but it's a bold at the same time. So you want to put that in there and make sure that people can see it and that they're going to get you know, exactly what they're looking for by heading over there. So that's the tip number 4, is to make sure that you've got text that makes sense in your thumbnails. Okay, and the last tip that we have for you has to do with branding once again. You want to make sure that all of your thumbnails are fully branded. You know, we mentioned Lowe's a little while ago and Home Depot. So what you'd want to do there is, again, if you're Home Depot, you're going to use that orange color somewhere in there, but you're also going to want to put that nice square Home Depot logo that everyone's going to recognize in that thumbnail somewhere. Now, it doesn't have to be gigantic. It doesn't have to cover up the whole thumbnail, but just one in the corner next to maybe a box of orange, and then a face and some text, and you're going to have a pretty good thumbnail. But putting that logo in there is great for a lot of different reasons. If you've got a brand that's recognizable, people are going to instantly see that. They're going to watch your video because they know exactly what they're going to be getting. They know the quality. They've already watched other videos. They trust your reputation. So it's only going to help you to be able to do that. Now, if you're not Home Depot, well, you still want to do the same thing because that logo is going to brand that thumbnail, brand that video, and connect it to all the other videos that have that same logo in it. So if they watch one, they like what they see, well, now they're instantly going to know, hey, this is a video from them again, because they're going to see that logo. They're going to see that color. They're going to see that same type font, whatever it happens to be, and it's going to get them to click. So the big thing there, number 5, you want to make sure absolutely that you always put your logo or your branding inside of your thumbnails to make sure people know exactly what they're getting into. So that's my 5 tips for making sure that you create a great thumbnail. So again, if we start at the beginning here, you want to make sure that you use good color, especially colors that match what you're already doing. You want to make sure that you have a face in your image whenever possible, because people can connect with that face. You want to make sure that the thumbnail has some sort of action. And one thing we didn't mention, when I said if it's a video about a question and you've got somebody looking puzzled, well, that's kind of an action as well. So you're kind of mixing the face with the action. But putting an action shot in there is going to build curiosity, get people to click. Number 4, have really good text in your video thumbnail to make sure that people know exactly what the video is going to be about. And number 5, make sure that you brand your thumbnails with your logo or something that's familiar to everybody so that they always know your videos from other people's videos. So there you go. Steve, are you ready to make thumbnails now?
I am.
Excellent. Well, so am I. And I actually enjoy making thumbnails. I typically do them in Photoshop, but I also use the logo creator quite a bit as well because they've got some great designs already built in there. So if anybody's looking for ways to create those thumbnails, Photoshop, you can use PowerPoint, Keynote. If you've got a program like the logo creator, check that out. If you don't, search it up, the logo creator. It's from Laughing Bird Software. It's got pre-built templates that are really cool, and you can just drop your images in there, change the text, and you're good to go. And instant video presence is another one that's very good as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in PowerPoint. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, I know a lot of people. I mean, even people that do a lot of videos that they pull up PowerPoint and they build their thumbnail there. It's a very effective and easy way to do it.
All you do is save it as a JPEG.
Absolutely. Oh, and one other tip with thumbnails, and this has nothing to do necessarily with the look and feel of them, but when you make your thumbnails, you want to make them 1920 by 1080, and that's full HD size. Now, yes, the thumbnail on the screen is going to be very tiny. However, if people are watching on a big screen TV, if they're seeing your video embedded somewhere, that thumbnail is going to be much larger, and you want to make sure it looks good. So do it in a nice high resolution, 1920 by 1080, or at least 1280 720, and that should do well for you.
Fabulous.
Yes,
and
indeed.
Looks like we probably got time for a Mindset Matters, eh?
I do believe we have time for just that, so let's hit it. This
3.
little bumper
Yeah,
over.
Mindset Matters. Okay, anyhow. It sounded like I was having a fit, but anyhow. 3, 2, 1.
All right, so for today's Mindset Matters, once again, I'm going to hit the world of podcasting because we love podcasting here. And this week, we're going to talk about our good friend, Pat Flynn. And Pat Flynn has a couple of really, really good podcasts that you can actually learn a ton from. So if you want to learn kind of the detailed ins and outs of different marketing campaigns and how to do certain things with marketing, then you'll definitely want to look Pat Flynn up. He's got like I said, the main podcast that he has. Well, first of all, he has one called Ask Pat. And Ask Pat is a very fun little podcast where he literally just answers questions. So it's a daily podcast, and somebody might call up and say, hey, how do I do the best, how do I create a YouTube video, or how do I set up a YouTube account? And he'll answer that in that daily podcast. So he's got every single day of the week, he's got a new one that you can listen to, and it answers one particular question. It's short, it's simple, and it is very effective. But then he's got the granddaddy of podcasts, and that one is his main podcast called the Smart Passive Income Podcast, which is an entire podcast devoted to people trying to do online marketing. So whether you're trying to start a website for a specific product you've invented, or you're trying to do affiliate marketing, he's got all the information in all these podcasts that are going to teach you how to do all of these things. And he's got some tremendous guests that he gets on the podcast that help with certain things. They share their stories, and you can learn a whole bunch from it. So if you want to learn more about that, simply search up Smart Passive Income or Pat Flynn on iTunes. You'll be able to pull it up pretty easily. And it is the #1 internet marketing podcast at this point. So it should be very, very easy to find. Highly, highly recommended.
Saw Pat at Podcast Movement.
Yes, he has become, literally, it's funny because he just kind of started this podcast, and now he is up there where, Forbes has podcasts in that same genre, and, all these other big companies, and he's #1 above all of these big names because he's done such a good job with this podcast. It's so popular, and it's just got a lot of great free information. So you can't go wrong by checking it out. The Smart Passive Income Podcast. Very cool stuff.
And it's the radio show about video marketing madness with Ray the Video Guy. And I'm Steve Sleeper on the Show podcast network. Today's show made possible by
freevideoeditor.co. Looking to start making videos, but you don't want to spend all that money on Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro? Well, this is your chance. Check out freevideoeditor.co and download our free video editing software, which allows you to do green screening, and it allows you to do text and 3D text and 3-point editing and all sorts of other cool stuff. Check it out today at freevideoeditor.co.
And let's wrap it up with the jingle as always.
There it is, the jingle, the jingle, the jingle.
All right. Very good.
All right. Well, now I guess we can find out shortly if this all worked out, which I'm pretty sure it did.
Okay, good. Well, you would think at least be a video there, and I can download the audio. So,
well, that would be ideal. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat here while we're on here. Before I shut it off, I'm going to go to the YouTube and see if it plays. And it does. It plays.
Yahoo!
So at least for now, we're good. Maybe by next week we'll be shut down until we figure that out. But hopefully not.
Well, hopefully you're going to have a better day.
I hope so too, but it should be getting much better now. So,
okay. Good deal.
All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next live broadcast behind the scenes.